We are back. Wow, my microphone is too low. I am joined once again with Sam. I keep saying with Sam.
We're
by
here.
Sam.
We're here with
together.
with each other. Bye together.
It's fine. It's been a day, and man, what a crazy matchup that was. But we got another great matchup coming in hot. Anthony and Craig rematch. So Calling 2. Was it So Calling? So Calling 2. That's right. 3. Sorry. There's been so many at this point. So we've got another ice match. And boy, are my arms tired.
We've got Oldhim versus Iyslander here. This is gonna. We saw Craig earlier today. I believe we've also seen Anthony, right? A couple times.
Yeah, Anthony has been on stream several times.
Yeah, these as we talked about at the beginning of the stream, these are very established, well-known players in our local meta. They're two beasts who are excited to get to watch do their thing.
Yeah, and Blake wanted me to mention that all three of the people that we made profiles for are in the top 4 now. So you're welcome. We apparently know what we're doing, or at least Justin did when he put those slides together for us.
Yeah.
So, no big deal. We're just the best in the game. Greatest there ever was.
That's it. Looks like we got opening hands being drawn up.
Let's hop right into this.
So as the higher seed here, Anthony elected to go first. We can see with that tunic counter going on his tunic. He's got the Heart of Find All in his opening hand. This is now, if you pitch your Heart of Find All in the first turn, you have the greatest likelihood of getting the most value out of that card. If you can gain 2 life out of pitching a card,
that's feeling pretty
that's a $300 value right there.
Yeah, the cost gets split every time you pitch it. So if you pitch it 3 times, it's only like $100 card.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's pretty sweet. So yeah, you love to see that first, turn 0. And, I'm just got a little bit distracted because Craig has Crown of Seeds, which I'm not that surprised by, but I know often Oldhim players aren't always playing that in this matchup just because it can be sometimes harder to get your arsenal moving. A little late on the fist bump there, guys, but, sure, why not?
It's
Channel
okay.
Lake Frigid.
Channel Lake Frigid?
Good game,
Hell
I guess.
yeah. But, so we get to see AB3 plus a, quasi-AB in the Crown of Seeds there for Craig. That's going to allow him to completely mitigate something like a blue Aether Ice Vein and potentially even a yellow Aether Ice Vein coming out of the Iyslander player. I wonder how much AB you kind of need in this matchup to feel perfectly comfortable. How often, knowing that Iyslander can be throwing these physical attacks at you, do you ever think to yourself, man, I wish this was a Crater Fist?
I think you probably do sometimes until it's the end of the game and they're just slinging spells at you that you can't block. So I think AB3 is where you're feeling as comfortable as you can in this matchup. Craig, I know, is a pretty defensive player. Even when he was back in the Starvo meta, he played a really interesting kind of defensive version of that deck that he piloted to a lot of success. So we'll just have to see. I haven't seen Craig on stream today. Did we have Craig on stream today? I forget.
We did. We had Craig versus Angel.
Oh, that's right.
We had the Briar matchup.
Nice.
With a pretty wild full equipment block on that first turn that didn't quite go the Briar's way, but we give him points for trying.
All right, so Enlightened Strike, just, easy 7. I think this Channel Lake Frigid's probably going away, but it served its purpose. It was annoying, and then it's gone.
And against a Guardian like Oldhim versus a Guardian like Bravo, the Channel Lake Frigid, when a Guardian is consistently pitching to the Tectonic Plating into the weapon swing, or Tectonic Plating into Tear Asunder into the weapon swing, your Channel Lake Frigid's probably going to get a little more value from what I understand of this matchup. Do you feel like the Channel Lake does similar work into Oldhim when they're often just throwing one big thing at you?
Kind of. I think it probably makes it harder to pitch for Crown of Seeds, if anything. But, yeah, I think it's going to be a slightly less impactful in this matchup. I think Oldhim tends to not care as much. So Anthony's not going to waste his time trying to prioritize it being out there. But, in the right hand, it can definitely make things difficult against any opponent.
But once again, we are seeing just the versatility of this Iyslander deck. You keep a 2-card hand, throw 7 efficient damage that Craig elects to take all of.
Ooh.
He likes those 5 cards. He's got access to 4 in the hand and 1 in the arsenal.
Craig's feeling spicy right now, and I'm into it.
This is Rogue Craig. He's wearing shoes. There are no flip-flops on this man. He is on another level today. He had pants and shoes on.
Wow.
So-
That's how cold. You know it's cold
Yeah.
outside. Craig's got shoes on. So Rouse the Ancient coming out, flashing that Command and Conquer and Debilitate.
A quick flash. You don't need to really worry about
You know
it.
what it is, Anthony. It's coming for you.
Now, Command and Conquer into Iyslander. It feels like the threat on the arsenal is so mitigated by the ability of the Iyslander here to, if they want to, just play that card right to the arsenal, removing that kind of threat on the card.
Yeah, I think, it's kind of thing where you wait and see if Anthony's going to play out his arsenal, and then you don't really need to play the CNC. But if he doesn't, there's a good chance it might be an attacker defense reaction. So coming in with that makes it a little awkward for him right now. Not threatening Pummel, but still CNC, always a threat. But here we go. We have our backup, one-time use Crown of Seeds, the Crown of Providence, putting in work.
Absolutely. And, Craig took 7 to throw back 13. That's a good exchange.
It's not bad, especially if you're, the Icelander's not going to get the kind of chip on your and their turn. It can really be a pain in the tuchus, as they say.
And the Tuchus does not like to be pained, from what I understand of the Tukai,
That's right.
the plural.
It's pronounced tushy.
Yeah.
Okay, so CNC doing what it does. It gets rid of the arsenal one way or the other.
Oh, it
Man,
looks
that
like
was just a good turn
yeah.
for Craig there.
we see a Frost Hex, a Wounded Bull, and I think 2 other attack actions perhaps in Anthony's hand, which could have something to do why the Crown of Providence was so effective there at helping filter that arsenal. If this turn is going to be more simple, big Wounded Bull coming in instead of trying to string together arcane damage out of the arsenal, Waning Moon.
Yeah, my guess is that he probably had a similar card in Arsenal. It's probably a little rough for him right now that his only blue is this Frost Hex. I would guess he would want to get that out to set up his combo, or at least, a portion of it. But as we've seen in Anthony's games early in the day, he can get by on 1 or 2 Frost Hexes pretty well. And time his, either a mini combo and not fully relying on OTK to win this kind of matchup.
I know you've played a fair amount of Iyslander. When you pitch a Frost Hex at this point in the game, it's 26 to 33. We've been through about 4 turns total each. Are you counting on seeing that Frost Hex again towards your combo, or are you thinking to yourself, I'm going to see the other 2 before I get this back in my pitch stack? How often do you feel like at this point of the game you're playing towards your pitch stack now, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think at this point that Frost Hex is gone. Even if when he comes back to it, it's hard to get a Frost Hex out, especially against a deck that can have disruption towards your hand. So I'm guessing he's relying on the other 2 Frost Hexes in the deck to come through, and he'll have time to set up his amulets and Insidious Chills as well. Although Craig just taking a lot of cards from him. I think Anthony's trying to slow the game down here a bit. It's been a bit hot, but Craig is like, nah, we're turning up the temperature.
Yeah.
Pummel. Boom.
Taking the whole hand out of Anthony and keeping it. Iyslander likes to be at very similar life totals. They like to keep the parity all the way down to the end of the game where they can kill you on your turn. And so for Craig to be sitting at his opponent just passing back at a healthy 5-point little lead here and having the agency in the front foot to come at the Iyslander again, you have to wonder if he's feeling good about where he is at this point in the game.
Yeah, feeling pretty good. He got
When you throw a Terra Sunder down.
Just a easy Terra Sunder coming in for 5 and a huge hit effect.
And what was interesting there is, so the Terra Sunder is going to give this Winter's Wail Dominate. The Dominate will also, if the card hits, take 2 cards out of Anthony's hand here, as well as give a Frostbite. And there was no seemingly kind of call for priority between those 2 moves. He played the Terra Sunder, he attacked with the weapon almost as though he expected there to be no response, or he knew Anthony didn't have anything here. So I wonder if Anthony had already made a motion to, or some kind of signal to show that, no, you're good, you do your thing.
Yeah, these guys both just very skilled pilots on these decks, so they're going to be playing pretty quickly, honestly. I think
Teammates as well.
they are. I'm sure they've played this matchup many times.
I was talking a little bit of smack because 2 of the people I came with beat 2 members of the experience, but and shout out once again to Aiden Kwasniewski for making top 8 there. But we do have the 3 members of the experience coming in here at the top 8 and just showing us what's what.
You love to see it, but that's what this game's all about. It's about upsets. Just because you've won some things doesn't mean you're going to win everything. Luck plays a small portion, and then just some days the deck you brought is not the answer you needed.
The almighty gem it can giveth, and it can taketh away.
Yeah. Praise gem.
So we've got a fused red Aether Ice Vein coming in from Anthony, threatening to immediately equalize the life total and at least strip 1 card out of the hand. There's no Insidious Chill here to threaten a second discard effect. There's no Amulet Device. This is a face-up red Aether, but most likely going to be followed up with the Waning Moon, given that we already have a card in Arsenal. Keeping a Channel Lake here, I'm not sure if that's what Anthony's going to elect to do or not, but it does.
Yeah, it seems like a waste to do that. He's got to get that chip damage in to get these life totals a little bit closer.
Craig showing he wants to mitigate some of this damage by pitching the Terra Sunder and then discarding a card to the Aether Ice Vein effect.
Nice.
All right, and then here is that Waning Moon for 2. Waning Moon being an instant, you do not need an action point to come in for those 2 extra points of damage. No floating for Craig, so any other defense here is going to require a card.
Got some deck lists here.
Yeah.
What do we got here? Craig, of course, running 5 pummels.
I haven't been passed notes since 4th grade.
Do you like me? Yes, I do, Sam. Thank you.
Iyslander Stormbind. That's not yes or no.
All right, so yeah, this game's kind of going as you would hope for Iyslander. He doesn't have any of his combo pieces set up, and Craig's just gonna drop this E-Pot, which pretty good for him. Although he's holding on to a card, but he's got to play it a little bit slower, I think, and be careful of the things that Iyslander can throw his way that can, once again mess up his hand.
He's restarted on his Tunic counter as well, so he might be playing towards, the almighty Tunic pummel, making sure he's setting himself up for the future in 2 turns when he has that available to him, and preparing for... I remember I saw a game, I don't remember if it was the World Championships, where being able to activate your energy pot at instant speed was how the player was able to get through the Frost Hex combo, because he was able to activate the energy pot, clear away all those Frost bites before the Frost Hexes were able to close the game. So perhaps that's a kind of insurance play for Craig to make sure he has his get out of jail free in case Anthony is playing towards that combo line.
Absolutely. It's a really cool move, and if you're not aware of it, can really catch you by surprise when you try to go for your kill move as Iyslander. I definitely have had it done to me, and you're just like, oh no.
Hold on. That's not fair.
all my damage
so
that I just took to not do any back.
Amulet of Ice has been resolved, which we already know deep down inside Craig is furious, as his answer to the which card should be banned in the metagame right now, his answer was Amulet of Ice, so staring it down across the table must just bring up boiling rage. Although he has just elected to block 9 here.
Let's see the rage on his
Yes,
face.
you can
Look
see
at
it.
that.
Yeah, I can tell. I met the man once, about 3 hours ago. I know his inner workings of his
Top
soul
3
at this
words
point.
to describe Craig is rage.
Rage,
sandals,
anger,
and
lust.
nice guy.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. Icy Hammer coming back at you.
Now, do you think if you're facing a Guardian player and they are coming at you with a Winter's Wail threatening a Frostbite, and they say Frosty Hammer for 4, does it make you more angry or less angry? Like, I like that you said that, or everybody with the Frosty Hammer.
It's the zeitgeist, man. It gets in the culture, and you just start saying it because other people say it. So I try not to get mad about these things. But, if I'm losing, I'm probably mad about it.
Frosty Hammer. Just say a Winter's Wail.
Winter's Wail pitching an ice card, threatening a frostbite.
All right, maybe I understand. So as we discussed earlier, what does Iyslander want to do in this matchup? They want to keep the life totals at parity and set themselves up to kill you when it's time, when they've set it up, right? Anthony was at that life deficit 4 turns ago, and now here we are. Anthony he's actually in the life lead, which maybe when you're Iyslander is a somewhat disadvantage, as it turns off your Finals Fighting Spirit, turns off your Scar for a Scar. So Anthony might be looking to take a punch here to make sure some of his deck can go.
Yeah, I think, Anthony reacting to the cards he's drawing a bit, was a bit aggressive to start the game, and then has pivoted to close the gap in their live totals. And now, he's probably feeling a little bit more comfortable. Although, you're never that comfortable against Craig. Actually, Anthony might be sweating. I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
In there. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, we don't have a sweat cam, unfortunately.
We need to get some sensors on these guys to get some vitals into our UI up here. So Command and Conquer with the Ice Quake. So threatening a Frostbite and CNC hit effect. Just Oldhim things of how do you make CNC better? You give it +1 and an extra on hit.
It's interesting. Craig was talking about how different the game plan is as Oldhim after the Pulse of Eisenloft ban, and I think Icequake is a perfect example of a card that you wouldn't see when you were playing towards Oakenold, but now that you're not really caring as much about blue Earth cards, you can play cards like your Icequakes, your blue Winter's Bite, cards that you want to pitch towards your defense reaction when you need to, but then also have text and can enact game effects in a situation like this. 7 damage Command and Conquer requires much more than a 6 damage Command and Conquer. That's often 2-3 blocks can take care of it.
One more than 6.
Precisely.
But when you're playing a lot of 2 blocks like Iyslander, that can be pretty brutal. Might take upwards of 4 cards. So I think Anthony is thinking about responding. No, he already played Cold Snap, so he drew a card. So he's got the 5. Do you have 5 cards in hand? Mm-hmm. I can't count anymore.
Yeah, he's working with 5 cards. Use the Tunic counter on the Cold Snap. See how he wants to respond to this.
Doesn't have an arsenal, so this is really just threatening.
This is damage.
And damage.
And we saw Anthony was willing to take that deficit to kind of equalize the game on his own terms over the next 2 or 3 turns. We'll see if he wants to take that passage or that route here or move in a different direction.
Yeah, I assume he needs to keep this game, slower and not leak too much damage to make sure that he has the space to play out the pieces of his combo. I mean, it could be that, he just keeps chipping Craig down to a point where he can pop off in a normal way, but I don't know. For the most part, I've always seen Frost Hex as being part of the win condition in this matchup.
Yeah, we've only seen one be pitched, so none resolved yet for Anthony here. See if he's looking towards a different game plan or just trying to get towards that point.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just don't see the cards till late in the game, and Iyslander's not one to shuffle her deck, so just got to wait and see. Getting that 1 point of damage in Frostbite. Hit effect from the Icequake, no arsenal to lose, and passing it over to Anthony. Checking out his discard.
So what does a Frostbite do if you're Iyslander here? I remember Michael Hamilton was actually talking about how you're playing these cards that are so on rate, they're so good for what their rate is, that a single Frostbite can actually quite affect your turn. If you're expecting to just go 3 for 7 and all of a sudden has to be 4, that might affect your ability to put a card in your arsenal or pitch towards the Waning Moon. And as we see, it looks like he's going to be forced to activate that energy potion to mitigate that Frostbite's effect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, one of a good use for it. It could be saved for a bigger combo with Ice Eternal, but, in a pinch, things like, just same thing for, Craig's side, the energy potion can be used to just get rid of the Frostbite when it's just in the way of doing what you need to do.
It's interesting, the energy potion being a no block going into the Guardian matchup. You're already running the Amulet of Ice. I wonder if you're worried at all about being caught with both of those in your hand at once. Clearly, Anthony found it more valuable to, with these more icy Oldhims out there in the meta, make sure he had an answer for a moment like this when a single Frostbite would have made this turn significantly worse.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think energy potion's kind of a standard. It's hard in Iyslander. I don't think you're siding out too many blues, but because Oldhim's not presenting as many like big dominate hit effects, or in the case where they are dominated hit effects,
it's mostly the
one
Winter's Wail.
It's not gonna really kill you.
Totally. Clearly, it proved its effectiveness here.
We will see. All right, 22 all. Just these games are nuanced and can be interesting, but sometimes it's just back and forth chip damage until someone gets that edge. And right now I think both players are. It's funny how aggressive this game started and just how much it has slowed down. I think Anthony's been around 23 health for the past 3 or 4 turns,
which makes you wonder if he is playing towards that combo, if he's really looking for those pieces. He doesn't want to try to win with.
He hasn't even seen it. I think he's finally got an Insidious Chill in hand. He's got another Amulet of Ice. We could possibly play both those out. But then again, he's got 2 attacks in there as well, which probably going to sling one of these bad boys and then save something for Arsenal. Oh, okay. Yeah. Insidious Chill going there.
Having to pitch the Insidious Chill.
That makes sense. As Iyslander, playing out a 0-cost ice blue from Arsenal is just tasty. It's everything you want. It gives a Frostbite, it advances your game plan, and didn't cost you a single card to fucking play it.
And once again, the life totals being even there, not allowing that Wounded Bull to get that extra point of attack value. So sometimes...
Huge. We'll see if that is the difference.
The 1 point.
The 1 point. There you go. Craig, 2 E-Pots out. He's building up his combo. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't have a combo.
Craig was talking earlier about feeling comfortable fatiguing a good amount of matchups, especially the aggressive matchups. I'm not sure if that's his game plan going into this, but it does look as though he's effectively kind of kept the game pretty even here, and I wonder if he's looking to grind Anthony out of options, out of cards, survive that Frost Hex turn, and then have more cards than his opponent, win from there.
Yeah, I feel like it's not the move you want to make, just because the longer you give Iyslander the chance to set up a combo against you, it was the slow Oldhims that the combo was just I just play this out. I'm just gonna OTK you, and there's nothing you can do about it because you move too slow. So I think Oldhim really needs to have the ability to be more aggressive, or in the case where you can set up your end game, or the second cycle of your deck to really just ensure that you're going to disrupt their hands so much that they won't be able to pull off the combo when you get there.
I think we've only seen the 1 pummel. So Craig could either have those still set up or still coming to pressure the life total of the Iyslander even more here.
Yeah, because he does have Glacial Footsteps. He's got Pulverize, good amount of pummels, although I think he's lost a couple from blocking. And then what was it?
Even the Macho Grande perhaps is a late game.
He's not running Endless Winters though, which is interesting. I know in his older deck he did have that, but he told me he swapped it out for Enlightened Strike. So was feeling that was probably a better chance, but we'll see. I told him I like the Endless Winters, so we'll see if I was right or if Craig's right.
I was going to take this card out, but Colin really likes it.
Yeah. It makes the casting booth happy, so I'll play it. But here we go.
There it is, on cue. Turns out.
Probably for 5 would go again.
Turns out it's a good card. Does a lot of things. This time electing to, we're assuming, go again, given that
he
has 2 cards in hand. It could represent, most likely, at the very least, a Winter's Wail attack. Arsenal at the end of that. Anthony is slowly amassing some permanents to combat Craig's permanents with the 2 Amulet of Ices and the Insidious Chill.
Firmly believing in object permanence over here, for sure. Slanging out this Ice Bolt, giving the Frostbite. Now I feel like we're getting into the rhythm of like Iyslander doing her thing. It felt a little off. I think Anthony drew some odd combinations of cards, but has really navigated that. Coming out, from that not huge, but significant life deficit, and now sitting in the lead, which has got to feel not great for Craig. You definitely don't want to be lower on life than Iyslander.
Yeah. It's not how the deck is built to operate from a lower life total. So Anthony's doing something right if he's starting his turn at a greater life total than the old man. Not Craig. I would never, that would be rude. But his hero.
The old man himself.
Old man, the old him.
Craig.
Craig is young and full of verve and vigor. And you tell him I said so.
Verve, vigor, and rage. Heard it here first.
Exactly. I've got a second.
Okay, now out of nowhere, board state really building up for Anthony. 2 Insidious Chills and 2 Amulets of Ice. He's going to get this Ether Ice Vein out here, and it's going to be rough.
The opening here for Craig now, by playing that second Insidious Chill, he's given Craig the opportunity to respond in kind, actually put some pressure on, more pressure than we've been able to see out of his hand. Even that E-Strike with Go Again, because he pitched to block that Arcane damage, it didn't end up representing more damage.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder then perhaps if it could have been for 7, but if
yeah,
that would
I didn't pay attention to his life total. How much damage he took? He took 5. He was at 22.
22?
So yeah, I don't think he blocked. So I think it was 5 Go Again. But I think that's part of playing against Iyslander is keeping your options open. You have cards in your hand so that you can pitch them, or if they don't end up coming back at you for whatever reason, you have cards to put the pressure on.
Indeed. And a card like Spinal Crush with the threaten of the loss of Go Again here, it can be relevant as your Iyslander. You have Enlightened Strikes of your own. You have the Scar for Scars. But if those cards aren't in your hand, this is just 9 points of damage.
Yeah, I think Anthony's probably looking out for a pummel here. We do have 2 cards in hand and 1 floating. So, and he also has the E-Pots, although I don't think he'd want to waste an E-Pot right now on a pummel.
Yeah, it never feels good to be pummeled.
Feels great. I just love it when they're like, here, take this damage, and then take more damage, and then lose a card. At least you get to pick the card.
I when I first started playing, I thought that they got to pick. I thought it was 2 cards. And my opponent was like, no, man, you're good. Keep your cards.
Only sometimes is it 2 cards. Like when they double pummel you.
Double.
Now that would, if he's got 2 pummels in hand, I say go for breaking all of your E-Pots and just double pummel it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that sounds fun.
You would never see it coming.
I mean, it doesn't happen every day, but I feel like Craig's the kind of guy who would definitely win a game doing that.
So this is the same Spinal Crush. It's the same one.
Same one. We're still waiting. Anthony's still thinking about it.
Yeah, flip those
He's
cards
not
back and
sweating,
forth.
but he is looking intense.
We heard some claps, so perhaps the other top 4 game is finished up.
And now he knows who we might be playing. Is it Chris Ioli? Who knows? It's either him or John Zapata. Craig whispering things into his hand towards Anthony,
as we said,
trying to get inside his head. Sounds like Chris Ioli has won on Lexi, so we're going to have Lexi in the finals. Wow.
What everybody expected when Chris showed up on Lexi was he would run through the tournament after only dropping that first game to Mr. Kwasniewski. He has just not looked back since. So he will be...
Round 1 looked bleak, but then he's come roaring back, and going to be exciting to see it. I haven't seen him play yet because I've been watching some other games, but excited to see what Lexi can do, and I think a lot of people will probably be picking up Lexi again after watching this.
I was just given word that the undefeated curse here in these series has persisted, as John Zapata was undefeated moving all the way up into top 4, but was not able to take home the crown today. So be careful going undefeated in Swiss, you guys. It might not work out. You might want to drop a game every now and then if you want to win the whole event.
We did break the, the highlight slide curse that was a bit of an issue at our Battle Harden that we had a couple months ago last year. Because, as I said, all 3 of the people we highlighted are now in the semifinals.
There we go.
And one of them is in the finals. So, 2 of them will be in the finals. So we're just, like I said, we're just that good out here. AGE, bringing the content.
We did resolve that Spinal Crush attack. It happened.
God,
it was a block for 2 and 7 damage. And it looks like it's going to be, I'm assuming, a red Aether Ice Vein fueled with a Cold Snap.
Yeah, Anthony is obviously in it because he has not even bothered to put his dice to tell us that it is coming in for 5 damage.
He's like, they'll figure it out.
He just isn't even thinking about it.
So we've got a bunch of things are going to happen even before this Aether Ice Vein resolves, right? We have 2 Insidious Chill triggers that are going to demand some card out of Craig's hand. If Anthony is feeling frisky, he might also pop either or both of those Amulets of Ice, but those also remain as insurance on the turn that you want to strip the entire hand from your opponent and then just kill them when they are completely bare with nothing in the hand remaining. So we'll see how he wants to play this and see how Craig responds initially to the first triggers. Pitching a blue, rouse the Ancients there for the first Insidious Chill. 1 floating, allowing him to either pitch a red. You could pop an E-Pot if you're not worried about keeping both of them around.
Oh, nice. He's going to use the 1 floating. Oh, it can. Yeah, you can do Crown of Seeds. Yeah. Crown of Seeds to block one of the damage coming from either Ice Vein and maybe just draw some better cards for him to work with. Haven't seen him use Crown of Seeds too much, which is why I was a little surprised to see him play it.
This is an excellent use case, right? You get some value out of that resource. You put another card in your hand that you can either pitch towards these triggers or discard, allowing you to perhaps come out some pressure. Anthony is at 10. He has to respect some damage if it comes to be too much from the Oldhim player here. So even though the Crown of Seeds hasn't been used too often, this does seem like a pretty good use case for it, and perhaps why he brings it into the matchup.
Yeah, totally. Because he knows he's going to probably have to pitch a blue anyways, so he's going to have resources floating, so might as well capitalize on that and block one of the damage coming through from Aether Ice Vein. Anthony actually just way ahead of us and didn't bother to put the 5 damage on there because it hadn't resolved yet. And, he's just a proper player.
It's true. It's true. Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, it looks like he did pop off one of those amulets. Just to get rid of the rest of his hand.
Yeah, the second one would have been redundant as Craig is expectantly hoping to draw, but beforehand, Anthony gets to do whatever he wants.
Just let me draw. Oh, he's going to freeze your arsenal. Watch out, Craig.
This is most likely just going to be Waning Moon for 3 that Craig will have to take here. It does look like that's going to be 12 to 10. So at this point, Blue Emeritus can be 4, Waning Moon can be 3, and a Red Aether, that's 12. So there is enough damage possible from here with the Storm Striders, but you have to make sure your opponent doesn't have the pitch to mitigate some of that damage. But we're at a point in the game now with Craig being at 12 that the light can be green for Anthony moving forward.
Yeah, he needs to find his moment where either Craig has overextended, which I don't believe Craig will do, or he can pop off with his chills and really
do something similar to what we just saw.
Yeah.
Take his whole hand
and force through that damage. But here we see Anthony finally getting a Frost Hex out there. So this will make everything a bit easier, and he's got a second one in hand. He's finally drawing into these. It just took all game. Just happens that way sometimes.
A little smile there from Craig as he drops the 3rd energy potion.
Nice.
Representing, like, I'm going to have some resources for these Insidious Chills.
These resources that will be turned into a force field that protects me from you.
And there's the second.
That's the second one.
And that's the thing, if you don't pressure the Iyslander, sometimes they can just use that action point on something like a Frost Hex, maybe even come in with the Waning Moon. If you give them the opportunity to play one of their non-attack actions that sometimes can be kind of clunky, sometimes can require you to take some damage to set up, if you just give them the opportunity, they'll be happy to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Is that 2 brain freezes he pitched? No,
red one.
yeah, it's definitely not a red
No.
one. That'd be crazy. Blue Brain Freeze is just a great card, though. You fuse it, it triggers Insidious Chill. You don't even really care about the effect other than it costs 0, and you can fuse it and just force them to discard their hand. And
Can be a fuse and a pinch out of the arsenal if you need to interrupt their turn.
Yeah.
So like we said, this Choke Slam is going to be coming in, and it's not going to threaten the lethal unless one of those 2 cards is Pummel.
Ooh. Is it Pummel? How many Pummels have we seen? We haven't seen that many. I don't know if Craig runs all of them against Iyslander, but we have seen several go to discard.
Mm-hmm.
He does have a couple blue Pummels and a couple reds.
At this point in the game now, right, we're able to see kind of why it stalled out around 20 life, with both players pretty clearly, from what we can see now, playing towards this endgame scenario where for the Iyslander player, they have these permanents. For the Oldhim player, they have these permanents in the energy potions to try to mitigate whatever the Iyslander tries to do, right? Like some of that slog that we kind of had to watch to try to understand what was happening. Again, we can really see what the game plans were playing towards.
Yeah, it's classic arms race and Cold War scenario.
Very Cold War. That's
Very
a
Cold
wonderful
War.
pull. And as you can see here, we've gotten to that hard to find all.
And there it is. Pummel, baby.
And the sink below out of Arsenal to mitigate that 4. How long has that been sitting there?
I think it's been sitting there for a little bit.
A little bit.
Nice. Nicely played, Anthony. He knows. Craig has definitely won events with a pummel.
With that pummel. Little smile from both parties there as these guys know what they're doing. They've played a lot of games together. He said, I knew what you're doing.
Right, I've got 2 Frost Hexes. I'm feeling much better than I did 5 minutes ago. And there's the third one. Man, those 2 were really at the bottom of his deck.
They really were. We pitched that one in
early.
Yeah.
First, I think it was like the first turn.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. But that's the thing, what makes players better than other players is how they can navigate the randomness in this game.
Mm-hmm.
It's inherently tied to its game. It's what makes it beautiful. You have to be able to adapt your game plan, understand, the flow and tempo of the game to make sure that you can get to the point you need to be without being in a bad spot.
Mm-hmm. I remember from one of the earlier rounds, Craig speaking to one of his opponents about pitching his channel lakes for exactly what we're talking about here, mitigating some of the variance and pitching towards a specific game plan. I wonder if Craig is really wanting to make sure that these channel lake frigids were here at this time to stop some of these, or to interrupt some of these potential game-winning combos.
Yeah.
That plus the energy potions. He's got a huge line of defense there. If he can stick some channel lakes consistently, not representing an ice card in the pitch right now, but that does have go again. So perhaps
True.
He would be able to throw the frosty hammer, baby, for 4.
Chocolate frosty. Brought to you by Wendy's. We're not sponsored by Wendy's. Not yet. But we are sponsored by Arcane Games and Events.
What?
If you're just tuning in, this is the semifinal match in the first 1K AGE Open Series. We'll be doing these monthly all the way up to August, where we'll have a championship event with the top point earners, which is going to be really exciting. So we have a whole year of this. So if you're excited about Flesh and Blood, you just got even more excited about it.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
That
You're
sensation
welcome.
you felt, that was excitement.
Yeah. That palpitating thing in your heart is not something
right,
you need to seek medical attention for.
No,
it's just exciting.
So again, and we see Anthony with the blue Emeritus Scolding, something you always want to pitch to the bottom of your deck to be ready for. It's the best card you can have in your arsenal as Iyslander, the most damage you can threaten at from that point. Otherwise,
it's the best one at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It wins games.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. The art, I love that card. The art is so good. It's just, one time I forgot the name of it and was just like, yeah, Angry Professor is coming out for 4 because that's what it is.
Yep. And the winner's bite pitching towards the Crown of Seeds, which looks as though that's what's going to keep that channel like Frigid around.
Ooh, nice. That's a Craig move right
that's
there.
And then the Frosty Hammer for 4. So in a way, we were all right.
We were all right.
Everybody was correct. Craig, us.
2 winners bite in hands. That's kind of a crappy hand that Craig made into something pretty good, to be honest.
Yep. Channel Lake Frigid going to affect this Icelander's upcoming turn, perhaps impacting their ability to play from the arsenal here, try to threaten some damage with the Waning Moon.
Who's got no arsenal. He's going to put out his own Channel Lake. Here we go.
I hope no one is in a rush.
Yeah. This is the thermonuclear Cold War arms race we were just talking about.
Yep.
Just, you think it's cold, let's just make it even colder and slower.
Now, does the fact that Anthony's Channel Lake Frigid is foil add to his odds of winning?
Only if it was the alt art. You know, so sleeping on that there, Anthony, with your all foil deck. But I understand they're pretty pricey, but they're infinitely cooler than the regular one.
So looking like I think it's a blue disable?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's a red disable in this.
In the
no,
list?
He does have red disables. Never mind. Don't know. It looks like a blue, though.
Yeah. It's coming in for probably 6. Something.
That sounds right.
all the Guardian attacks, man.
Yeah, they're just blue 3 for 6s.
Colin is correct. You
Hell
are
yeah.
correct.
Thanks, Taylor. Shout out to Taylor, one of my co-hosts at the Attack Action podcast.
Fantastic podcast.
If you like anything I've said or thought anything I said was remotely funny, check out our podcast because it's basically more of that.
It was the first.
Two other guys.
No, 2 other guys. There are 2 other guys. It was the first Flesh and Blood podcast I ever listened to, and I got into the game a year and a half. So big, year and a half ago. So big shout outs to them.
Hell yeah.
This blue disable, though, kind of like that Spinal Crush from earlier, getting a lot of attention and respect from Anthony. He's looking at those energy potions. He's calculating. You can see him kind of doing the math, trying to figure out these energy potions can all be pitched to AB. They can all be used to kind of stop that kill turn. If you pop those Storm Striders and you don't finish your opponent off, I think you immediately find yourself at a pretty stark disadvantage as Iyslander.
Definitely can be. We have seen Anthony pop his Storm Striders to just push damage to put himself in a winning position without winning the, not winning the game with the Storm Striders, but then winning the game
from
shortly
there.
after. Yeah,
I've heard from my experience, but also from much more experienced Iyslander players, it never feels like this is awesome. I'm glad I'm doing this now. I know you've played a lot of Iyslander, so maybe you've had a different experience.
I come from a school of Kano, so Storm Striders was usually your win condition every time. But with Iyslander, it's not always that. Sometimes it's just pushing the advantage as much as you can, and I think that's where she really sings as a deck, is just outvaluing, and finding those little edges where you get extra advantage, chipping extra damage, and putting them in a spot where they just can't win. Especially, you can do the math. He's got 3 AB and Crown of Seeds. So he can only block, 4 arcane damage from a big spell.
And that Crown of Seeds will only be able to be used one time. It does not function as a 4th AB. So
exactly.
Yeah.
It only just blocks 1 damage, and then he's got his Insidious Chills set up to really ensure when he goes for it, he can, he can make sure that Craig has nothing left to pitch. Although he does have a bunch of E-pods. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting pickle for both these players. You have to wonder, is literal fatigue going to be a factor as they try to work out a win here, as they've been playing a lot of games, they've been playing for hours and hours straight, and will fatigue in this literal game sense be a factor here? Are either of these players playing towards that end? We're in a top 8 situation where there is no time limit, so it's going to be tricky to figure out the puzzle here for either one of these players to come away with the win.
Yeah, I think if Craig can keep out this Channel Lake Frigid, it's definitely going to help him. If he indeed pitched his other ones right behind this, it's going to be pretty tough for Anthony. He doesn't have any E-pots out, so his ability to scale his big attacks with Ice Eternal really goes down when that cost is being taxed every single time.
Was able to keep 2 cards here, and it looks he doesn't have the Coronet Peak to pitch to anymore. That was and it was never a Coronet Peak because it was the Crown of Providence.
I gotta assume this is on Craig's turn still.
So it's gonna be coming in for.
So coming in for 4. That's why that card is so good. It basically just says when you play this in Iyslander, it attacks or it does 4 damage. And I think, was that Ice Eternal that just went into
That
his
was
arsenal?
Ice Eternal into the arsenal.
He
So
is getting ready.
he set himself up. His channel's going to go, but as we discussed, that's not going to normally on regular Oldhim turns. That's not going to cause too much of a disruption. So he's probably not too stressed on keeping that on 2 counters. Sitting on 2 counters on each Insidious Chill, 1 other amulet of ice ready to work on Craig's hand. Have to see how these players want to get out of this one. 9-6, both sub 10. But we're working with thinner and thinner decks. When Anthony picked up that discard pile to look through it, that was a hefty pile. They've worked through a lot of their decks here, and Craig definitely did a good job of running the Iyslander out of those physical attacks. He's blocked so much of them that at this point, how many Wounded Bulls can you have? You can have 3. You can have 3 of your Fighting Spirits, right? So at this point, those physical attacks aren't going to be pressuring in the same way, demanding cards out of Craig's hand. Without those cards being used to block, he can pitch them towards the AB. He can move towards a longer game plan and continue to stall this thing out. All right. Making sure everything's nice.
Whose turn it is right now?
I believe it's Craig's turn.
Yeah.
Because the last turn was the Emeritus Scolding
That's
Arsenal
right.
pass. So
Yeah.
we've got the Ice Eternal in the Arsenal there for Anthony.
He's got another one in hand. So he
Mhm.
could find himself in a situation where he can strip Craig's hand, maybe force him to pop his E-Pots, and then just do the same thing.
Yeah,
right
respond
after
with the
that.
Ice Eternal. With the 2 Frost Hexes versus the 3 Frost Hexes, he's at 9. So we have to find a way to get enough damage after all that to finish the job. Craig's looking... That
Ooh.
fatigue is setting in. That Terra Sender came down, got 2 cards left in hand. Do you have a response, Mr. Anthony?
Dominate. Lose 2 cards. Tear asunder. Is it busted? What is your thoughts, chat? Yes, you agree? Awesome.
No, you agree? That's a
It's-
cool card, man.
It's really good.
It was in one of the first box of Flesh and Blood I opened was Tales of Aria, and I remember looking at Terra Sender being like, I don't know what this does, but I think it's pretty good.
It looks
This
good.
card is always a bummer to sit across from.
It really is. Especially when they just like swing a hammer and you're just
Mhm.
like, damn it. It's 5, but it's so much more than that.
Mm-hmm. That Tunic is sitting at 2 counters, so we're not able to float a resource in response to blocking with it if he needed to here, though I don't know if that 1 block would really come in handy against a 5-power Winter's Wail.
I mean, he does have 3 cards in hand,
Mhm.
so pretty much anything could be coming next. It looked like he is passing.
Now, Pummel here is very dangerous, right? If you're the Iyslander player, you got to think about. We've seen 3 red ones. Or-
I do not know. We've
Yeah.
seen a couple. He's blocked with a couple.
Yeah.
And I think he's played at least one. But, oh, here we go. Did that just come? Yeah,
That came out of the Arsenal. So here we go. Ice Eternal.
He's going to say, you know what? I just would rather if you didn't do this. So I'm just going to Insidious chill your whole hand until
Mhm.
you can't do anything after this Terra
Yeah.
Asunder.
And we saw these. Given that the Channel Lake Frigid is sticking around, it'd be interesting to see if Anthony does try to go for the kill here as the hand gets stripped away. Can he play through it, or if this is just a fuse out of the arsenal, stop this Terra Asunder from really being threatening enough to make me have to think too hard about what I block with, and set himself up to use that second Ice Eternal that we know is in the hand to really kind of finish the job.
Yeah. Interesting. Craig sitting on 2 blizzards here. So probably pretty happy just to pitch
Get rid of
these.
those.
I think still didn't dip into his
Oh, that is
E-Pots.
true. That is an interesting point from Riley in the chat. The Frostbite coming out of the Iyslander is Ice Eternal itself an ice card? It's just an elemental wizard card.
It's the Frostbite resolves afterwards. So he fused it, which triggers Insidious Chill
Oh, and that gives a
first.
Frostbite.
No, Insidious triggers are pay 2 or discard, and then once Ice Eternal resolves, he'll get the Frostbites.
Does Ice Eternal's text give a frostbite? Did he pay into it enough to do that?
Yeah, he pitched a blue, so he is he paid into it. Not a lot. I think it's just because it's an XX card, right?
Yeah.
So
he pitched into it.
It's just going to be 1 Frostbite, but that doesn't happen until after the Insidious Chills resolve, which he pitched
Totally.
the 2 Blizzards for. So it is going to come in. He does have some floating, so he will be able to block. Pretty sure he pitched that Polar Blast for the Ice
Yeah. I think you're right. So now kind of all eyes are on Anthony. What does he want to do here with Craig? No cards in hand.
Yeah, he's got to figure out if he wants to try to push some Storm Strider's damage or just maybe chip into him a bit. We do know he has another Ice Eternal that he could possibly try to pop off on.
Anthony's sitting at about 10 cards in that deck. 10 or 11 if my count was correct. So at this point, you have to wonder how long is he able to go here before he just runs out of the cards to do what he needs to do.
I mean, Craig's at a level where Anthony does have some outs just chipping in. Apparently, there are 11 cards left in Anthony's deck. So, as you said, not many options. Hopefully, he's got some another blue Emeritus Scolding in there, but it could be looking grim. He might get fatigued here.
Which is something we talked about earlier.
You said it could happen, and I said no. No, Sam, I've been doing this a long time, and that can't happen.
Yeah, I
and
might
now
miss
Craig, the scourge of Pasadena.
The scourge
is just going to make me look foolish in front of all my friends.
I might miss an Ice Eternal effect, but I have some understanding about this card game. So we got the E-Pot being pitched to allow for that Winter's Wail.
Ooh.
And there's plenty ice cards in pitch. So this is a 5 dominate, discard 2 on hit. In some ways representing like I think these 2 energy potions are enough to keep me alive in the remainder of this game. I don't think I need the 3, and this is a threatening effect.
Yeah. He's got the ability to pitch to Crown of Seeds or activate his Tunic or his E-Pots all can help him dance around the hefty amount of Frostbites he could potentially get from another Ice Eternal combo. But it looks like Anthony's going to be pitching the Ice Eternal in hand to just get in this extra 3 damage instead.
And Craig is staring right at that Ice Eternal and thinking to himself, okay, there's 1 coming at the end of his deck. He knows there's not many cards left.
Yeah.
He's going to be ready for it.
It's either 1 or 2 or 3 turns away.
Mm-hmm.
When did he pitch it? We don't remember. But it looks like Anthony doing his own dancing, getting around this Terrace Sunder a little bit by pitching his cards to only have 1 card left to get rid of, which was Channel Lake Frigid, which he didn't want to put in Arsenal because that was just going to be too expensive anyways.
Anthony's just going to be forced to...
Tunic and pass.
6 counters, no. 3 counters.
Yeah, this Tunic goes to 6, baby.
Yeah. So now, Craig has the action point. His Tunic goes to 1. How does he want to play this here? I think I do see another Channel Lake Frigid, which could once again make it harder for this Iyslander to do all the little different game actions it wants to take if it has to add 1.
Yeah. Craig still has to be careful, does not want to overextend himself.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 E-Pots on the field probably give him enough leeway, though. So, I don't know. I'm feeling like Craig might be getting there. I don't know if he has any pummels left, but it might not matter. I think his normal attacks can just do enough damage and threaten enough to make Anthony's life pretty tough right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't have an arsenal.
Yeah,
So he would have to. I mean, he does have Tunic up, so Storm Striders,
off the Tunic is an
off
option.
The Tunic is nice.
So it looks like an amulet in the hand there.
Is
Brothers
there a
in
pummel?
arms.
Is Craig gonna take down another hero with a game-winning pummel?
We haven't known how many pummels are left this entire game. Why should we start now? Why should we start now? 1,
2, 3, 4.
All right.
Is that all 5? That might be all 5.
That was 4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I saw one earlier in there or not. So does Anthony know how many pummels Craig has in his deck? He might. They're on the same team. Do they lie to each other? We'll find out later.
Hefty damage coming in off this disable, though. Again, he's at 4. He can't. If he
can't
can't kill
take
him
it
in
all.
response, yeah. If he can't kill him in response, this is gonna. He already doesn't have an arsenal. He's already working off of 11-ish cards after putting the pitch stack back on the bottom. He's gonna have to find a way to get an arsenal, be able to play out of it. But
yeah, really getting another card in arsenal is his main goal right now. Unless, I mean, one thing he could possibly do is hope that there's a pummel and that Craig goes for the kill, but I don't think Craig would. I think if...
Yeah, this requires, I think, 6 block. Is this coming in for 9? So this is 2 cards out of hand. The text isn't relevant because if there's no arsenal, but...
Could be a Tunic block, but he looks like he's going to be putting 2 cards down.
Yeah, I mean, you want that Tunic resource to enable you to try to close this thing out, but you block 6, you take 3, you go to 1.
He does have a Brothers in Arm, I think, so he can block the whole thing. There you go. He's going to block 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 all over.
Yeah. He's going to throw, I believe, an Amulet of Ice into that arsenal now, which is, hey, it turns on your Waning Moon, but at this point in the game, are you happy to see an Amulet of Ice there? Is it?
It's not great. I mean, it is. The best part of it is that it's free. He can play it out of his arsenal, give a Frostbite. So if Craig tries to do anything like play a Terra Sunder or anything in front of an attack, he can respond, give him a Frostbite, and then Waning Moon.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't game-winning at this point. You know, it's good enough, but it's not the best.
Mm-hmm.
So he did pull in an Ether Ice Vein. That's very important right now.
Mm-hmm.
If he can get this Ether Ice Vein out, I think it might be a red. Trying to see, it's that second card from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like it might be a red. If it is a red, he would need to wait for his turn or Storm Striders it. But that wouldn't guarantee him the win, even if he strips 3 cards. Yeah, it's a really tough position. Craig still has those E-Pots.
Yeah, those E-Pots proving to be incredibly pivotal in how this game has been dictated. It's really been kind of this, as you said, this warding shield off Anthony trying to go off and secure the victory here.
Yeah, it's really just his insurance plan of like, yeah, you can come at me, but I will have resources even if I have no cards.
And Craig was able to get the game long enough to get them out. You know, he had to block. He had to turn those chunky turns for us as to wondering what was kind of going on between the two players. But it got him to this point of being able to resolve these cards that put him in the position to once again throw 9 at his opponent.
Yeah, Craig very good at making sure that the second and third cycle of his deck continues to have threats in them.
Well, in that Crown of Seeds, too, it only happened a couple times, but he very easily could have pocketed a nice, hefty red attack, not represent it, turn it into a blue card.
Yeah.
That card, Crown of Seeds, that effect is powerful.
Yeah, so Amulet of Ice coming out, giving him the Frostbite.
Yeah. Now, the Amulet of Ice, I mean, earlier when I said how happy are you to see this Amulet of Ice, right? When a Frostbite is there at the end of this turn, that represents 2 damage now because of those 2 Frost Hexes. So perhaps that's good enough if you're Anthony just to represent the damage. The 1 floating could be used to pay for one of the Arcane here, but every little bit counts when you're staring down the oldest of men, the grandfather of eternity.
Craig does have 2 cards in his hand, so I think he can just push, pitch through that Sexfind.xyz, thank you for advertising unsolicited material.
Get out of here. You're
have
gone. You're
This is a
done.
family show with an adult card game with lots of violence.
To any children watching, don't look up the card Shred.
It's spelled S-H-R-E-D. Yeah, man, the next couple turns is real crucial. I feel like Anthony wants to try to get this Ether Icefane into Arsenal so he can Storm Striders, strip all of his cards, and push through 5 damage in a Waning Moon.
Mm-hmm.
If he can get there, if he can survive that, it's going to be awesome. But this
The stars have to
Spinal
align.
Crush is a problem right now.
He can go to 1 here by blocking with 2/3 blocks.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like he might block with 3 cards.
Just park the Aether Icebane right in
Just
there.
Park the Ether Icefane.
Yeah.
It can be scary and risky, but
There's-
well, I guess we have to factor. Okay, so he has 2 E-Pods,
Mm-hmm.
so that's going to take care of the Insidious Chills.
Mm-hmm.
But then he has 2 Amulets, so that's going to demand 2 cards. So if Craig comes at him with a card, and has to pitch for it, he could find himself, even with all those extra resources on the board, not able to block any of that kind of attack. But no, Anthony's going to do it now. He's not going to wait, because you know what? He's better at this game than I am. And Ether Icefane Red's coming out. He's only got 2 cards, so he's going to just pop everything. I think he's done the math. I think I was a turn behind thinking he couldn't do it right now, but he's only got 2 cards. So he's going to have to, hopefully, if he pitches both, if they're both blue,
So he has
pay for 3 of these.
2 cards left in hand, 1 floating. First thing we have are these 2 triggers. He's going to go ahead and
Okay, so discards red, pitches a blue.
that's going to resolve both the other triggers. Now, the Amulet Device is no longer relevant effect because he can just choose to, I'll choose discard, but it looks as though he popped it anyway.
He popped both of them because he knew the Insidious Chills were coming in. But now they're not.
Mm-hmm. So we have...
It's interesting he did the amulets first. I think... Oh, I guess maybe you have to. I'm not sure if you have. No, you can do it at any time you want. It's just a prerequisite.
So there's 8 damage here, right? For the Iyslander, the 5 plus the 3 more on the Waning Moon.
So there's 5. He can block 3. He's going to take 2, and then he doesn't have to pay because...
And yeah, that's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
I was looking at the math. I was like, I don't think it quite does it. He has exactly enough resources to stay alive.
I'm curious if he had waited and just set up that Ether Icefane in Arsenal, if he could have been in a better spot. But Craig had those E-Pots. They were absolutely clutch in preventing the kill turn from Anthony. And maybe he's just tired of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and he's checking his pitch stack there.
He's got nothing left.
Yeah.
Like,
you need that damaging spell in the arsenal to really make it all go, and he went for it. But
yeah, I think if he had been able to have something in Arsenal and then do that, it would have been in a much better spot. But Craig brought the pain and the rage.
The pain, the rage,
he left
and
the
the
sandals
lust.
at home, but he brought the pain and the rage. So good game all around. Both players just really excellent pilots. So we are going to have Lexi and Oldhim in our finals. I don't think Chris is very excited to hear that, but you know what? He's going to put up a fight.